Hey guys, in this video I have this Pandora's Box arcade system courtesy of Banggood. Links will be in the description along with a coupon code if you're interested in picking one up. It's very similar to another arcade system I did a review about a couple of months ago. With 800 games, this one now has more games included. This was sent direct from China using EMS shipping and I got it in about a week. So it does come very well packaged. It was enclosed with bubble wrap. And as I open up the box, you can see that it's really well packaged with lots of foam so that it won't come damaged. And right off the bat, you can see that there is the power adapter. So this is a 12 volt 3 amp power adapter, and it uses a standard basically power plug. And over here is the manual. There's really not a lot to read about in this manual, but it is there for you. It comes with a USB cable, which is basically male on both ends, and that allows you to plug it up to your computer. And this is a HDMI cable. Also included is the VGA cable if you do have an older monitor with VGA instead of HDMI. And then finally it comes with these two 30mm push buttons. Basically they're spares in case you damage one of them. But it's nice of them to include them. And finally, when you remove the foam, this is the controller. It actually looks a lot better than my previous one because the corners are rounded off. And the nice feature of this controller is that it is backlit. So there's actually LEDs in it. The light kind of pulsates really slowly, changing from blue, red to green. So it kind of gives it a really nice effect, especially when it's dark. The graphics are also protected with a thin, clear covering, so you should take them off before you start playing. The buttons are actually pretty decent, but like all of my arcades, I prefer having real Sanwa buttons and joysticks, so I highly recommend that you replace them if you want better controls. But the stock ones are okay for most people. So this is what it looks like on the front, and then I'll show you the connectors on the back. Here's the on and off switch. Here is the power socket, and this is where you plug your adapter in. And then next to that is HDMI, VGA, and your headphone jack, volume dial, and this is the configuration button to change any settings. And here are the USB ports for plugging it up to a computer or console. The top one is the only one that should be active. These type of arcade systems are very similar to the arcade super guns that are available in Japan. Basically, they are a control box with joysticks and buttons with an arcade board inside. With limited space, these arcade super guns are very popular for smaller homes since all it needs is a TV or monitor with HDMI or VGA. With this unit, you don't really need a full-size cabinet, and it's very easy to transport if you want to bring it to your friend's house. When you turn it on, it goes through this introduction video, which is about 40 seconds. So I'm going to fast forward through this so you don't have to wait the full 40 seconds. Even though it says Pandora's Box 4S, it's actually got the same games list as the Pandora's Box 4X. As newer versions of the Pandora's Box comes out, they usually add more games. But even with the older, Pandora's Box 3, 4, which has about, just a little bit over 600 games or so, that's still a lot of games. So in this roster of 800 games, it has a lot of types of games from beat 'em ups, puzzles, to retro classics like Pac-Man. And of course, if you like shmups or shoot 'em ups or fighting games, it's got a ton of them. The enclosure is very well built. You can always replace the internals with whatever is current at the time. Maybe in the future, swap out the wiring harness and circuit board with a newer Pandora's Box, Raspberry Pi, or even a computer. This enclosure will have space for lots of potential modifications if you're into that kind of thing. The joysticks and buttons aren't real Sanwa, but they are good enough for most people. And in this later part of this video, I will show you how to easily upgrade them. It's not very difficult. You pretty much just pop out the old buttons and then you unscrew the joystick and then just plug in the wiring harness. So it's actually not a very complicated process. To get into the configuration screen, press the CFG button in the front and it should bring you into this menu where you can customize a few settings. So one of the first things I'll show you is that you can change the credits. So I just leave it in free play. Auto exit is how long before the game gets back into the main menu when you are idle. Quality optimization is, I usually have that off, but when you have it on, it basically smooths out the graphics. And then when you get into game settings, this is where you can change like the difficulty, whether you want to hide or favorite some games. So if I hit the B button, this goes into edit games list. So you can hide certain games or you can hide them all. And this is the favorite menu. And this is where you can set some of your top 30 favorite games. And then they'll show up in the main screen at the very top. And the next setting I want to show you is the ID test. And what this does is it basically lets you test whether your controls are working. So this is where you can basically press all your buttons and they light up accordingly. And to exit, all you have to do is press the player 1 and A button, and that should bring you back to the system settings screen. After you're done configuring everything, you can then save settings and reboot, and it will save it and then restart the system itself. I'm actually going to replace the stock joystick with a real Sanwa JLF. So the one that is included is a Sanwa clone, and it has a round gate, and you can see that it's pretty much the same size and everything. So it's going to be a really easy swap. All you have to do is just unscrew the 6 bolts and then just put this one in, and that should be really easy to swap out the joystick. The only thing holding them in place are these screws here, and they line up with these screws on the real Sanwa. There is this also connector, which is a standard connector that will plug into the original Sanwas as well. So it's actually going to be very easy. You don't have to do any soldering. It's pretty much just plug and play. So that is the joystick, and the buttons are just as easy. On the right hand side here, you'll see that these are Sanwa clones, and I already bought some real Sanwa replacements. These are the screw-in types. Now you can buy the other ones that are the basically the snap-in types, but like these ones, the stock ones that it includes are snap-ins. So after disconnecting the harness, what you have to do is pop them out, and the easiest way to do this is just to get a screwdriver, preferably a flathead, and just poke them out. Just pop these nubs on the side, and then they should just come out easily. And basically what you do, in my case, I have the screw-in type, so I actually have to put them in, and then I have to screw this nut over it just to secure it. If you had the snap-in type, they would just snap in, so just like the stock. So here I am removing the nut from the button itself, and I just drop it in and then screw on the nut to secure it. And then all you have to do is put back the wiring harness, so the 2 cables that were removed, and that's pretty much it in terms of replacing the buttons. So before we start removing the joystick from the control panel, what we need to do first is to unscrew the ball top here. And the easiest way to do that is to get a flathead screwdriver and then basically put your slot in there, and then you can easily twist off the ball top from it, because if you didn't do that, it would just spin in place and you'd never be able to screw this thing off. After removing the last screw, you can take out the stock joystick and then replace it with a Sanwa JLF joystick. So the holes should line up just like the stock one, and basically what you want to do is put in the 6 screws. Make sure you take off that covering before you put that in there. I'm just going to put in 4 screws for now, and then what you want to do is put on this cover. Make sure you put that cover in before you put on the ball top. And essentially what you want to do is do the reverse. So screw on the ball top, and then make sure you have a screwdriver at the other end to hold it in place. So here are the controls replaced. Every button and the joysticks are replaced except for the first player and second player and the play pause buttons. It's really unnecessary to change those, but if you want to, you can. Those are 24mm buttons, but I figured the only ones I really care about are the ones that I use when I'm playing. And when you open them up, this is what it looks like. So my Sanwa JLF has a octagon restrictor plate, and the stock one came with a circular gate, but I think the most common one is the square gate. It really depends on the type of game you're playing. So if you do a lot of fighting games, the octagon gate will probably work better for you, but really it boils down to a matter of preference, whether you want a circular gate, square, or octagon. So I've brought this to work and to parties, and it has always been a blast. People from all generations can find a game that they like, since the game's library spans many decades. And most importantly, everyone who sees this arcade system in action wants to know where they can buy one. Banggood has a few different models to choose from with different artwork and designs, so if you're interested, links will be in the description. Like all the other Pandora boxes, it plays that annoying intro sound. So I'll end this video by demoing some games for you, and like always, if you like what you see, comment, like, share, or subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.